And bring it together.
And
it's for the people.
Wait, that's the end. Damn it.
That's theater, man. That's not books.
Sorry.
We're doing this thing. All right, Eric.
Yeah.
Who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it?
I write books because it's really the only job I've ever been able to hold down. I do it because I can't not do it. I've always told stories in some capacity, and finding a way to be paid for it has made life possible. I think
That's fair.
Is that everything? I write LitRPG, but I didn't start with that. I wrote a whole bunch of other stuff first.
Do you like, okay, so there's this thing that's called like purpley prose, where it's the really like literary style of stuff. Because you've got like a vast background in like basically all creative arts, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Let's see. I am old. So I started college as a theater arts major. And when my parents were like, we're not paying for that, I switched and got an economics degree because I was in an economics class, and it was like, I barely attended class and I got an A. I was like, this is easy. So I can also do theater on the side. And that's what I did. And at the end of my getting a bachelor's degree in economics, I was like, I really love theater and I'd rather do this. And so I paid for 1 year of college on my own to get a second bachelor's degree because I just had to finish off like the theater major bits. So I have a bachelor's in theater and a bachelor's in economics. And I was very into film and theater, not so much into books. And I wrote plays and screenplays, and I ran a shitty little film company where we made some short movies and some long movies. Learned a ton. And I was a professional actor for a while until I figured out how much I really hated the long runs of theater. It was a stunning sort of realization that you get all this training in the theater arts, but like the biggest thing you have to learn is when you get a long run is actually how to survive it. Doing the same show 200 plus times, it just starts to take a toll mentally, at least for me. And then I bummed around doing technical theater work, and
what is technical theater work? Like,
so like lighting. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I started mainly in lighting. So hanging and focusing the stage lights and programming the lighting cues for shows. And that got me into rigging, which is like the people who go and hang the stuff that the lighting and everything else is hung off of.
Sorry, that just made me think of you climbing throughout that rigging. And I know it's hard for people to understand that everyone in LitRPG is incredibly tall. But you're like, 6'2", 6'4"?
I am somewhere, depending on the time of day, 6'2" to 6'3".
Okay, yeah. So it's like we see this in the camera, and then it's like seeing you in person, I'm like,
Yeah, I'm 6'2" and change, and currently around 320 pounds. So yeah, climbing was a lot. I was lighter then. I don't think I was over 300 at that point. But yeah, I was climbing around at 280 and stuff. And that took me to the circus. And I was a rigger for the circus.
Yeah. They were like, this guy is freakishly strong. He's up in rigging anyway. Let's just have him doing the trapeze up here.
Not far off. I was the other end of the trapeze. I was the guy who like made all the flying happen. So still rigging. The whole time I had been writing, I finally, while I had enough downtime with the circus because I finally only had one job. And that's when I finished my first novel that I think 3 people have read and no one else.
Okay.
It's really bad. And then I went to grad school, got a degree in playwriting, and really was going, like, that was what I was going to do. I was going to teach theater and write plays. And I just felt like there wasn't a space for me in theater and got tired of trying to find other people to work with and convince them to give me a chance. And so I started writing TV series in the hopes that I could go to LA and get picked up on one. And I took one of those TV series I had written and turned it into a mystery book. And that was the start of novel writing for me.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, do I like purple prose? I don't actually enjoy it. There's certainly authors I read who I truly enjoy, like Patrick Rothfuss. His ability to turn a phrase is unbelievable. But I tend more towards Raymond Chandler and Dashiell Hammett, the pulp, hard-boiled mystery writers, where you feel like there's almost not enough description. Sometimes that's more what I tend towards. Just
Is that
very
like
lean
just like
writing.
you love the imagination of the readers filling it in?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think part of it's stylistic, and part of it is, in a way, I guess you could call it lazy, in that it's a lot easier
Don't
for me to
tell them the
say
secrets, man. This is the sauce.
this is the secret, right? It's easy for me to say he was a handsome looking man with a fantastic mustache and a severe look, right? That if that's all I say, you've got a picture in your head. I don't have to do any more work, as opposed to his mustache was thick and felt like it could hold a week's worth of breadcrumbs, and
You go
his
Ron
hair
Jeremy,
was,
you go Pablo Escobar with this mustache here.
yeah. But that's the thing, is it becomes, the more that you let the reader do, I think the more they tend to enjoy it. And that can get you into trouble, but sometimes that's just, someone once tried to explain writing, I think it was Stephen King, right? As a translation document, right? As a form of telepathy. What you're trying to do is take something that's in your head and put it into a document that would allow someone else to see what you saw, or so on and so forth. So yeah, I like to keep everything as lean as possible in order to let the reader have the biggest experience, have the most fun that they can have, as opposed to me trying to guide it and present exactly what's there. So I do purple prose to an extent. I don't really like Faulkner. I think he's probably one of the most purpley of prosers, but I do appreciate a well-turned phrase.
Yeah. No, I think that could be fun, right? Where you go, it's just like using words in a very smart way.
Yeah.
But it is interesting though, because like your background is with theater, with screenwriting and stuff, which is like very different forms. With screenwriting, you have it whereas, hey, this action happens and it gets shown to people. Whereas in writing, you have to, as you were saying, telepathically, essentially you go, here's a scene that I have. I'm going to write it on this paper and then transfer it to you and get that all across. Has that been like easy, hard, different?
You mean
Doing that transition, or was it like easy to go through the theater angle?
yes? Like some aspects of it are
There we go,
challenging,
ladies and
right? Like,
gentlemen. We have the answer that you've been looking for.
right. Some of it's going to be easy, right? Some of it makes sense. Some of it is going to be more difficult because each medium has its own strengths and weaknesses, and so you're really trying to figure out what those are and how to make sure that the story you're telling fits with that medium. I think one of the things that I've had the most issue with as a playwright was people who have been so trained on movies that they are writing like a movie that takes place on a stage, and they're trying to like make it real. But because we have movies now, realism on stage is really difficult. But there's tons of things that you can do theater-wise on a stage in front of a live audience that you can't do with film. And so trying to do that, to understand what those are. And similarly, there are things that like paper books do that don't necessarily work with ebooks. And there are things that ebooks can do that don't necessarily work with paper books. So I think every time that you're picking up whatever the medium is, you like trying to figure out how best to make that work. So it was a little bit of a shift, but I think also because I'd always been bouncing between screenplays and stage plays and novels, it didn't feel out of place. Yeah, it just felt natural, just because it's just telling a story in a different way.
Wanted to go back to something you said earlier where you're talking about doing a long running show and you're like, okay, I've got to do this 200 times. How many times would that be like in a week?
So I was doing a show. I was So when I was with the circus, it was 8 shows a week.
What a statement. Yeah.
8 shows a week. So it was Tuesday through Sunday with 2 shows on Saturday. Is that 8? That's 7. That's 7. And I think Broadway is often 8 shows a week. You have Monday off. And then when I was doing, as an actor, I was doing a show where I was in one show that had 4 performances on Saturday and 4 on Sunday. And then a different show that had 5 a day through the week. So it was, 16 shows, but they were 2 different shows. But then I was doing it for months on end. It was like a thing at a museum, constantly doing that same little loop. Yeah, and I was like, I know some people love it. I met actors who have done nothing but Phantom, like literally aging through roles in Phantom of the Opera. So they start out and they're young and they're playing like the young female ingenue. And then they are too old for that. And now they're playing the mother, but still in the same show. And then they're playing like the background older lady characters and stuff like that. And it's like, we've been doing the same exact show for 17 years or something. They love it, but I was going crazy. So
I would never understand that about you, Eric, of you going, hey, let's have a new idea. Let's go do new things.
Yeah, I have problems.
The good guys, the bad guys. And what's the third one?
And the ugly guys. Oh, you mean the one that's actually been published? That's the grim guys.
So there's definitely a swath of ideas.
I'm trying to see if I can actually show this. No. This is a list of all the active projects happening. There's 3 that I haven't signed contracts on, but otherwise there's 13. 13 open projects I have right now.
I don't know how that's...
It's a bad idea.
It is a terrible idea. We've had conversations about that where you're like, hey, I want to go do this idea. And it's, are you finishing any of the other ones? No, but this would be really nice.
Yeah, what was the one? Oh, yeah. Oops, I'm Cthulhu.
Yeah.
I'm going to write that one down.
Do you want to tell people about the concept of what Oops, I'm Cthulhu was?
Nope, I don't. I'm going to save that one because I'm here at number 14.
Oops. No. What was the main character's name? Bob, the Midwestern.
I think it was something like that. Robert.
Yeah, there was, I think, the voice that went with it.
Yeah, it was the Midwestern. So instead of oops, it was like, oop. Yeah, very Midwestern man. Is isekai'd as into the reborn as Cthulhu, the eldritch entity forward. And it's the traditional Midwestern. Let me help you and give you huge portions of potatoes and cream.
Which, like, you just think of that scene and think of that character being in an out-of-body experience. And okay.
Or, I am Cthulhu.
Every time. And also, yeah, like usually at cons, there is at least, I don't know, probably 3 to 5 ideas that you come up with. You'll find an author, corner them around coffee, and be like, hey, I have this idea. And for the next couple of hours, it's just the fun. I guess we can swear on this. The bullshittery of, hey, what about this idea? And then take it to the max, which is a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah. I've been, my wife is also my business partner and my editor and has now forbidden me from making contracts happen at conventions.
Ah, that's fair. Yes. I can understand that for sure.
Yeah. Look, man, all I got to do, I have all the outline here for the last book I need to give to Athon for the moment. I just need to sit down and write it. And or convince you to write it.
How is sitting down and writing it, Eric?
Poor. I don't know if it's burnout. I don't know what it is. Since moving to Maine, really, I've just lost track.
You have been in a basement for a long period of time. For everyone else, that is actual natural light that he's being fed now. Yeah. Because his basement dwelling.
I'm still in a basement. It's just now the walkout portion of the basement as opposed to the no windows, tornado safe room of the basement.
Yeah. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Eric can work through a tornado.
Probably will have to get this done. on top.
That is fair. You the 12 other projects now?
Yeah. I'm sure some of those I won't actually do. Like, I've been talking about the Space Marine one for years.
What's the Space Marine one?
Remember when Helldivers first came out? Yeah, it was in Ireland at that Office of Sustainability. Yeah, I was like, someone needs to do like a hardcore Space Marine lit RPG where there's no like magic or space elves or anything like that. It is purely like Warhammer, but legally distinct, technically speaking. I got that to the point where there was a publisher who said that they were going to send over a contract. And I was like, no, don't. Stop. Let's take that back. And yeah. And that's just been sitting on the back burner since then. Every once in a while, I do some work on it. And I've got a couple of different openings written. And I've built some systems and designed the world here and there. But yeah, that's what I do sometimes when I get bored or go on vacation. I just start fiddling with these things. And then they continue to build until all of a sudden I've got bonus worlds hidden in notebooks places.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. It's like the ideas never stop. And like when you go on vacation, as people call it, I can't write on the book that I'm currently working on. But there's a fun idea that I've had over breakfast that I'm going to go play with.
Yeah, when we were in Switzerland the other month, it was just like, couldn't stop working on some of these weird ideas. It's just sitting there going, in this. Yeah, no, I could Alpine Meadows. Yeah.
I had someone come up to me once and they're like, so how strong is your TISM? And I was like, oh, so we're not even going to start asking if that's a thing. It's just, where on the scale are you?
Say, you mean creativist?
Yeah. It's just a few letters removed.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would say that. I think maybe it's more product of ADHD than it is anything else.
It's fair.
So it just keeps going.
You have created like dozens of books out of that.
Yeah. Good Guys is at 16. Bad Guys is 11. And I have Roseland, which was like 18 novellas into 3 volumes. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of books. I don't know how many I've written. I have to stop and count every now and then, but not as many as I need to have written.
That's fair.
Someone once told me they would like it if I could write more faster, please. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know if any author has felt that ever. So you've traveled pretty extensively.
Yeah, most of it involuntary. But yeah. My parents
What was the most involuntary travel you've had?
I was a kid and my parents lived overseas and obviously took me along with them. And then they were like, we're already here. We don't want to go home for the vacation where the children would like to go. Let's continue going other places. So when we lived in Europe, it was weekend trips to Germany and Luxembourg and France and any which way, except to the United States where, my brother and I wanted to go. And when we lived in Southeast Asia, it was going to other parts of Asia and Australia and New Zealand and all those sorts of things. I wouldn't change it, but it was tough. I went to, 9, 10 different schools, maybe 12. It was, and my sense of culture is really twisted just because I'm touching all these sort of different time periods. Like when I was in Indonesia, I was missing the 80s that were happening here, but I was getting something later there. And when I got to Europe, it was still the 80s, but they were like interested in like 70s TV shows. And so I was getting all this Rockford Files and like this late 70s vibe of all the TV and whatnot that I was consuming. Then get back to the US and it was like all of a sudden the early 90s. So there's this like late 80s gap where I just missed a lot of what was happening. I don't know. It's weird.
Would you change it though?
No, because it made me the nut job I am today. Maybe. This is not an easy job that we do. There are some simple things about it. The physical trauma is certainly a lot less than many other jobs. And I don't mind the lack of hearts and coolers. I had a boss that was her favorite saying is, "This is theater. There's no heart in the cooler over there. We have to get to transport. Ultimately, this is just entertainment. So let's not forget that. This is not life or death." So I love that, because when working at height, a mistake could be very bad in terms of injuries. And I knew guys that fell and broke their backs and had to have completely different careers and whatnot. So I appreciate that the worst thing I have to worry about is like, what, RSI or sitting too much.
Yeah.
But it still is, there's a certain level of fortitude required. And sometimes I wonder if it would be nicer long term having a simple job. I do, because I feel like we work constantly. There's almost no way to shut your brain off through this.
Yeah, there is, when you're like just going through your daily life, like on vacation, great example, right? You're in Switzerland, it's a beautiful place. You're seeing all these beautiful things and your brain is there, but also almost a bit removed, because it's also going, oh, that's a really beautiful thing. I want to write that down. And so I guess it cements those memories into the stories you're going to create, but also means that, I think we've talked about this before, is like being very like present where we are, because we're in imagination all the time and you can't take imagination away from yourself.
Yeah.
You can, and it's very hard to pause it.
Yeah. That's what the beer is for.
Yes. Or just copious amounts of coffee.
No, that just makes everything worse. Actually, I have to say, like, coffee just doesn't do that much for me anymore. I think I've overdone it.
Just throw that branding up there. In the morning, it is hilarious because we get to sprint together sometimes. We can tell when the kids have been deposited, because a Starbucks coffee will slowly just drift into view. Your wife is, here is your tribute for the day. Now, fuel words.
I know, I got to get my mouse hat back. I don't know where it is.
Wait, okay. So for people who don't know, your publishing company is air quotes publishing. Which is like, I find it really fun. I've got stickers, I've got cards. If you haven't got them, go find Eric when you're at a con, because he has cards which you put a ton of time into, put all these descriptions on them and the character art and everything.
I need to make another set.
Yes, more work for you.
Yeah.
But where did air quotes publishing come from?
We needed, it's the joke, right? We run a publishing company. That was the whole thing. They were like, oh yeah, air quotes publishing. But we had to have an LLC. And I was like, saw everybody using their name. And I was like, I don't like that. And then once you do that, it just sounds a little bit nicer. But yeah, it's literally just, it was a joke between my wife and I, and we both think it's hilarious. And then it looks like bunny ears. I'm like, all right, talk to a branding guy. And we're like, yeah, make it a rabbit. Yeah, so rabbits. Air quotes.
Yeah, I do.
Sorry. Here, hold on.
Good morning. Good morning. Get that more coffee into you. Yeah, it's not working hard enough. Did you get that last Tari drag there?
Oh, it's a latte, so that last drag was full of sweetness. Just like you, Michael Chatfield.
Oh, thank you. It's all that syrup, but fake syrup. Yes. No, none of that tree blood goodness. But yeah, okay. Should we talk about another one of your addictions?
Which one?
One that I know you very well for, which is pens.
Do I have any of them on me? I don't.
What? Do you have a new latest addiction of things?
Probably. But I do have, this is my current daily driver. It is a Tom's Studio Wren. And you're like, wait, that's not a fountain pen. And you're correct. But it is it's like more like a fine liner that uses fountain pen ink, because it has this like capillary action sort of a thing. You can see that in there. So that's filled with ink. And it's like a cellulose membrane. And then that goes into that thing, which then ends in there. And it writes so much like a incredibly smooth fountain pen. Like it's soft. You barely need any pressure to make it work. And yet it also is that big. Writes very neatly. Doesn't have any sort of leaks. Doesn't have the same smearing problems. It's not as nice. Like it doesn't have the same sort of like scratchiness or whatnot, but it is great. I do really enjoy this.
How many pens do you have, Eric?
Like nice pens or like just writing instruments in general?
I like how there's a classification, but yes.
So I got this pen from X. And would you like, it's just a ballpoint pen, but also like randomly a screwdriver on the back.
That's from Luke Gygax.
Yeah.
He's just like, oh yeah, you know what you need to do? You need to do house hardware improvements and write at the same time.
So it's got the iPad tip. It's got a ruler. Then I think it's got a bubble level.
Okay.
And then your normal writing thing. So yeah, I have a lot of just like pens. And I bought a 4-pack of these the other day. Like just pens, hundreds, because I'm a writer who has his own company. And then like fountain pens, not that many, maybe less than 20, I would imagine, which is more than some, but certainly less than others. And my most expensive fountain pen, I have one that my mother bought my father in the 80s, and then he doesn't use, so he gave it to me. And that one, if I was to buy it these days, would be like $1,000. And then other than that, it's $200. It's my most expensive. But I know you and a certain Irish gentleman have some that are much more than that.
It's an addiction that we may have shared in, for sure. But I think like we've talked about that pen, the Mont Blanc, right? That was your dad's. And I think that one's like pretty special to you. Because was that your first fountain pen?
No, he still used that on the daily. And I think that was my sort of entry into fountain pens, is knowing that he used it. And I'd always liked it. I would like to buy my own eventually. They're just so fucking expensive. It is hard to, even though they're great, it's just difficult to justify the purchase.
This is also the man, ladies and gentlemen, that was debating buying a Hummer, not because it was a Hummer, but because it had an option on it, which allowed it for a fold-out table so that he could write on his computer while in the Hummer while watching his children do sports.
Amongst other things. So there was the electric one. Let's get that one so I could use it as a portable office wherever I went. And I could sit and keep the heater going or the air conditioner going without having to idle it. That was my goal. And I don't have a closed door office in my house. So being able to have a place where I could do things like this phone call right now, I had to fit this in for when everyone was going to be gone. Otherwise, it's going to be loud. And even now, if I make too much noise, the dog is going to be wondering if he gets to bark.
He gets all excited. Is he upstairs in his cage?
Yeah, he's like right there. I guess exactly where he would be. But yeah, he is very barky. German Shepherd. Very barky. I would say keyboards is the other, I guess, big addiction. And this is my latest disaster.
And there you got it. That, dude, that is very nice. Very green.
Yeah. So this is
what kind of keyboard, isn't it?
It is a hippo. The keyboard is by Jackie Designs out of Hong Kong. And I've been trying to get one of his keyboards for a while. He does super limited runs. I love the like huge bezels, retro styling. The keycaps are, I guess, evocative of a nuclear keyboard or nuclear missile silo keyboard from back in the day. So it's all just try to have this retro 80s nostalgia feel to it. I feel like that's my, idiom's not the right word, but I can't think of what the correct thing would be. But that's my flavor, I suppose. I still watch a lot of 80s shows. There's a lot of 80s movies and whatnot make it into my books and ideas.
So what is ideas out of TV shows or ideas out of movies? Because that's been so much of a background thing for you that has become a scene in like a book for you?
You mean something I've pulled from a real show that's been made, or something that I wrote and then turned into a novel? Are you looking for? So I think I've done little sort of homages here and there. Like, I think there was a sequence where one of the characters is having to climb a whole bunch of stairs and does the "let me know when you make it to the 20th floor, I'm going to puke," which is out of Ghostbusters. Stuff like that. Are you looking for that sort of stuff? Because I do a fair amount of that. I managed to get what I consider a fun reference to the Princess Bride in The Last Good Guys.
What's that reference? Which one do you use?
It's spoilers both for The Princess Bride and for The Good Guys, but it's that moment where Wesley is like on the bed and he's like, but maybe I do have the strength after all. Is that whole like little thing.
Is that the one where he's like getting up? Like oh no.
He's laying on the bed and he and Prince Humperdinck have been threatening kind of each other. And Humperdinck is, I know you can't do anything. You're basically dead. Otherwise, why would you be laying there? And then Wesley goes, perhaps I've been fooling. Or I forget what the exact words are, but then he gets up and says, maybe I do have the strength after all, and stands up and holds the sword out and says, drop your sword. So big climactic moment. Yanked it and did my homage for Montana doing that to some spiders. Exactly the same.
There's that scene where Wesley's dead, right? And the wizard is reviving him.
Miracle Max.
Apparently, that scene, did you know about this scene and the lore behind it?
Yeah. Where it's so funny, he like broke a rib or something, trying to keep from laughing.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, yeah, he was like on the table being revived and he was laughing, broke a rib, trying to stop himself from laughing because he's on the table. He is like the main piece of this all. And
yeah, there are, I wish I could have, yeah, Billy Crystal is incredible. And watching some of his stuff, I am consistently amazed at what he was able to bring to bear. And there were just some real gems sprinkled throughout his career. And it's just, I don't want to sound like an old bogey here, too late, but I do miss, getting that Santa beard going on. I do miss some of the...
You're nearly in season, man.
I know. That'll be my new job. Some of the performers from my youth, Robin Williams and Billy Crystal and like classic Eddie Murphy.
Who are your favorite actors and why?
Oh, I don't know, man. That's a tough one.
It's a really tough one. I know. Sometimes it's a range, and it's
all right.
Also
if I'm talking like, just classic. Let me.
We're here for the hard question.
The theater person in me loves like the people who really can put together really impressive performances. So like Daniel Day-Lewis and Meryl Streep and individuals who are just able to leave the who they are to become someone else entirely. Philip Seymour Hoffman. And then say humorist, the person who enjoys comedy, loves like the people who are able to always make you laugh, right? And so when I look at like Bill Murray and Billy Crystal and like Judge Reinhold, like so many of these like great sort of character and slapstick. Yeah. I guess even Chevy Chase, 80s Chevy Chase is just phenomenal. And I guess it'd be better to say there are certain movies, certain performances that I would say I truly admire. And there's movies that I don't think many people watched that are my favorites. Like Val Kilmer, another one. Like I've enjoyed almost everything he did, even back to his first things. Obviously, like Top Gun came out at a very influential age for me. I remember having the VHS of it and watching the hell out of that thing. And it was very effective propaganda. I wanted to be a naval aviator. So did my brother. Yeah. Although, like, I come from a military family, and my grandfather was a naval aviator, so he was certainly in favor of that idea. And probably if it hadn't been for height and glasses, that's where I would have gone. Stupid eyes.
Your natural nemesis, being tall and unable to see.
I know.
Yeah, those are tech.
Cyclops. Except with 2 eyes. Biclops.
Yeah, it was like, I was just going to say, I don't know, unless you're absolutely blind in one eye.
No, not yet.
Well,
Still time.
You've got years to work on that, and many screens to stare at.
Bust out the Yeah. I can bust out the eye patch at that point.
Yeah, actually, funny. Okay? So Brian Norton, you know that he has to wear an eye patch if he goes shooting now.
No.
So the hidden history behind that guy is he used to be one of the top shots in all of Ireland's army.
I didn't know that. I didn't even know he was in the Irish army.
He was like so they have, it's like basically territorial reservist.
Wasn't he
I'm gonna mess up the name? He's gonna yell at me and be like, "Oh, it was actually the same."
He was one of the Ireland's top fencers.
Yeah, he was for a period of time, like a week or so. He was like number 2 or 5, like so very close to the top fencer in the world, which is hilarious.
There was also an incredibly short period of time back in the 1999 or something like that, where I was, I think, in the top 1,000 Counter-Strike players of the world.
How many hours did you put into that?
Idea. For a spring, it was one of my frat brothers and I. We were basically just playing. If we played as a fake clan I played as GB Venkman, and he played as GB Spengler. And it got to the point where people, like random people, would recognize our names and start saying, "Oh, watch out for those guys." But I was mainly riding his coattails. He was in the top 100 and some odd. I think I was there 750 or something. Yeah, he was insane. Anyways.
What other crazy things have you done? Because that's like top 1,000 in the world for CSGO players is pretty damn competitive.
Yeah, but you have to remember this was early days, right? This Team Fortress 2 hadn't even come out yet. I was still playing Team Fortress Classic. And I think I was technically higher ranked there. I was a better Team Fortress player than I was CSGO. What other crazy things? I worked on some movies and TV shows when I was living in LA. I was just a PA. Just literally not even sure my name would appear in any of the credits. I did a day of work on Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story with what's his name? The guy who's not Will Ferrell in Step Brothers. Completely blanking on his name. Someone in the comments is going, "Oh my God, how can you forget this guy's name?" I don't know. You can see him.
He also plays, and people forget this. He plays the police officer in Gangs of New York.
Yeah, he's phenomenal.
And does an incredible role of it.
Yeah, because he's been in a ton of her.
John C. Reilly.
That's it.
Yeah. He also, funnily enough, people are interested in this, and I know this will tickle your fancy. He went to Ireland and tracing his heritage and such, and then went on to an Irish talk show, I believe, and basically proceeded to get roasted about his perceived Irish heritage. This Irish talk show, which was like, he's such a good sport, such an interesting cat. And I think that can be an interesting part where you've got this person that they can be goofy in their role. Then you can also see them in a serious role, and people get a little removed from them in that different role because it's a whole different feel for them. Where I know how much work you put into all of your scenes and all of your books to pull off some of the humor that goes on there, right? There's a lot of gems with the characters and how they come across to bring humor in books. Do you find that hard, or is that just, hey, this just happened?
A lot of times it just happens. That's just how my brain works. And one of the difficulties is, because it's how it just happens, is making sure that not every character quips the same way or has the same pulls from the same set of movies and TV shows. Trying to remember that the characters' ages are supposed to be different. And so like understanding like, oh, hey, yeah, this guy's not going to know the Rockford Files. It's not going to be quoting Ghostbusters. If he's so much younger, what were the TV shows that he would have been watching? If he's from New York, what are the teams or the local things that he's going to be referencing? So there is usually some blend of trying to figure out touchstones that you can use to make your character unique. And I do love being able to pick a geographical location, especially for isekai sort of stuff. It's always fun to have that tether to reality. Like Montana's from Detroit. And so like being able to like talk about things that he would have known in Michigan, or like restaurants and schools and little tiny things that most people won't care about. But for the 5 people from Michigan who read the books, they're like, oh, hey, yeah, I know where that place is. So he must have grown up down there. That sort of stuff. I like that.
Yeah. Like, I wonder if you pull from, because you have such an extensive like travel history of, hey, in this place, if you know this thing, it grounds it in the reality of the story.
Yeah.
Is that,
I don't
find that you have to write about places that you've been to?
No, because I think at this point, for better or worse, you can find someone who's from there, or you can ask. So I do a measure of research.
You're social? Oh no.
Yeah, I do research. I've flown into Detroit once on my way to Toledo, but I've never really spent any other time in Michigan. But one of my best friends grew up there. So I can always call her and be like, oh, hey, I need to like, where was the fun party place to go as a kid? What was the big high school? What news channel did you watch? That sort of stuff. Weird like touch points. What was the rock station that your parents didn't want you to listen to when you were a kid? Because back before streaming, there's like this type of streaming called radio.
Did you listen to pirate radio?
Not too much. I think I was a little too old or just too young for it. I skirted around it. I think I listened to weird radio as being overseas. I listened to, what was it? The Voice of America or something. It was like one of those ones. Or the DOD TV shows that they would play in the embassy. There's like there's some name for it, but they would put on, it would be programming that American service members and state officials could watch while they're there. So they do try to make it seem more American. One of my best friends, when I was living in Europe, his dad worked for the U.S. military there. And I was always loving going to his house because they had American foods that they bought at the PX on the base. And it'd be like, I could buy a box of Lucky Charms. It was like the equivalent of 20 or 25 bucks. So I never had it, but that was something he would have all the time. Anyways, all that to say, yeah, find those touch points now that we've entered the craft portion. Moving past pens, keyboards, circuses, theater. Where else have we gone?
So what travel stories have you got? Because there's always those travel stories. I talked about this with a few people. There's like levels of fun. There's, hey, this is planned and it went just as it meant to go. Hey, this was planned. This didn't go how it was meant to go. Hey, stuff has changed, but this is going to be a good story someday. Hey, stuff has changed. We will never, ever tell this story ever again. 5, we didn't return from the trip. So
I don't have any good 5s.
No, you wouldn't be here with the 5s.
I don't. I did have to bribe my way into a country once, but those aren't really interesting stories. It's very much, that's just the nature of travel at that time period. Sometimes.
Which country? Can you say which country?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's fair.
When I first lived there, was under the Suharto dictatorship. And I remember I was flying home the day of the overthrow. They actually changed where my plane was going to be landing. It's no longer safe to land at Jakarta. Converted it to Singapore. And so that was a bit of the adventures, landing in Singapore and trying to like get in contact with my parents who had just been evacuated from Jakarta to Singapore and figure out, oh, hey, where am I supposed to go? Just this coming home from freshman year at college, just completely blindsided by having that happen. But yeah, I guess I'm boring. I don't have any cool travel stories like that.
I don't know, like having it where your parents are literally fleeing a country because it's getting overthrown, and you're like, hey,
but that's their cool
Singapore.
story. My version of that story is right before we boarded the plane, they announced that there's a chance we might land in Singapore instead of Jakarta, which is always a weird thing to be like, hey, you don't exactly know where you're going? And then midway in the plane, they're like, we are diverting course and landing in Singapore. But then it's not like my parents are like special forces Indonesian military guys who work for the company show up and help them get into an armored personnel carrier, which like drives them to the airport to a chartered airplane where the entire, whatever portion of the company that had to be evacuated is put onto an airplane and flown away. That's exciting. But mine is just friendly stewardesses who are like, oh, can we help you? Or would you like another drink? That's the boring story because it was completely reactive. There was nothing. I was unable to be proactive. If you were going to write the story, you would never choose, hey, let me follow the dude who's stuck on an airplane and everyone else is making decisions and having
with that?
exciting times around it. So that's their fun story. I'm legitimately trying to think of like a fun story where like crazy things happened. And I'm drawing blanks. I went on a ski trip when I was in high school to Switzerland from Indonesia. And it definitely is the sort of stuff that would never happen these days, at least as far as I can tell, because we barely had any oversight. There was one of the nights, like they decided that we had an hour to go into the town. This is like we were in a hotel in the middle of this little Swiss town. And then half of the like adults, the chaperones and whatnot on the trip, were going to go out after us. And it was like a competition that was like a blend of hide and seek, but then you had to sneak back and get to the hotel without being tagged by one of them.
So the parents were definitely going drinking.
There were no parents. This was just like high schoolers and like some teachers and like professional ski people in Switzerland. So it was, here are kids who are 13, 14, 15, I guess 15, 16, 17, and 18. Mm-hmm. And they're just like, go into the dark of this town where you probably don't speak the language and try not to be caught by these people that you just met this week. And everyone's just,
when
sure,
you put it that way,
let's go.
It doesn't sound great.
That sounds fun. Yeah. No, yeah, I think that someone else maybe got there. I was very close. And they had decided to change the rules midway to where it was they didn't have to actually tag us, but just see us, which I felt was a little cheap. But yeah, otherwise.
A lot to run.
Yeah, because then you like really had to hide. And I remember thinking that if I had been smart, I would have borrowed somebody's extra coat and used it to like layer on top of myself to then hunch down and like hobble around as if I was like an old person wandering around the village instead of lurking through the shadows. Oh, and then there was like, you had to go and find clues. So it was like a blend of scavenger hunt and hide and seek. Yeah, it was crazy fun as a kid, but you would never do that these days. But yeah, when you don't have the internet, there's no television, there's nothing. All right. What would you do? How do you entertain the kids? Crazy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Like how entertainment has changed.
Yeah. I look at watching my children and the amount of time they spend on devices or with books or that sort of thing. And then thinking about the amount of time where you just tossed outside. Just go outside. That's the thing. Just go out there. I don't care what you do. Just don't do it in front of me. You can't do like whatever you do. I don't care. It's just not inside.
Yeah. Go wash up when you come back.
Let me go.
Don't die. And if you do nearly die, don't tell me about it.
Yeah.
And be back at 8:00.
Yeah.
Have fun.
If you get cuts, pack it with dirt. Try not to get any long-term wounds.
Yeah. No eye gouging or ear biting. Keep it clean.
Yeah. Try not to get the police involved.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just like, I was definitely a latchkey kid in that respect. I was like, just, yeah, I was getting these weird glitches in my video feed here.
Yeah, I saw that. You have like a green line. I think you're good.
If it bothers anybody, you can write your letters to Michael Chatfield, care of Legion Publishing.
Jazz is just getting the most amount of postage stamps. Chrissy's losing her mind. The hell is this?
It'd be amazing. Yeah, it was my mom had a job, my dad had a job, and I would get dropped off from the bus, and my parents would be home a couple hours later, and it was just understood. You do certain things, and yeah, I don't know. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And I try to think back, like, could I do that with my kids today? I don't even think you're allowed. I think that legally you can't leave children that age alone.
I think you know what? I am terrible at this, but I think it was like, yeah, if they're under like the age of 12, they have to have someone over 18 around them.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But I don't know.
But yeah, it does make me wonder about the capacity for imagination. Just if that, because there's so much being offered up that I wonder how much they have to train that muscle. And it could be that there's no bearing on it. And I'm an old fogey.
But yeah, I have this thought, and maybe you'll completely disagree with it, that a key ingredient to imagination is boredom. Because when you have boredom, you're like, I want to do something to entertain myself. And after 10 minutes of sitting somewhere, not having a cell phone or something, you're like, okay, what do I do? And it's all right, let's just imagine things.
Yeah.
And come up with stuff. Like, you kids, and they can have a dinosaur figurine, and that can entertain them for months with the right use of like boredom and imagination, because there's nothing else to do.
Yeah. And that's the thing. But at the same time, like, I do see my kids still able to do that. Like, maybe that is just an ingrained thing, an instinctual element of humanity, is that we just have that creative spark. I don't know. We could get deep into the woods of evolutionary biology about how creativity and storytelling is what has given us the ability to be civilized and rise above our bestial nature. Without storytelling, everyone would have to go and fight the mammoth themselves. But
like stories, if you look at fairy tales, right? Fairy tales are grim dark in our understanding of stories right now, because they are very terrible tales of, we're talking about like the Brothers Grimm, which actually collaborated a bunch of these from Germany, of these are really bad stories that involve children, so that children learn from them of what not to do. And they were all like, what's that word for stories that are only just told, like oral stories?
Yeah.
I think a name for them.
There probably is, but neither one of us is smart enough in the moment to remember it.
No, that's why we have Google.
Right. If you know what that is, be sure to write to Michael Chatfield, care of Legion Publishing.
But
we need to find out his company mailing address. That's anytime you can just tell people to send the mail to Jez.
He'll just be so excited and then so confused at everything that he's getting.
Everything's like, why Michael Chatfield, care of Legion Publishing? What is going on here?
But no. Okay, so another thing, when we originally set this conversation to be had, was talking about history and everything there. We touched on the history of stories, like how one of the oldest recorded sets of stories,
Gilgamesh. That is, isn't that's like the first story?
I don't know. I
think it's Gilgamesh.
I don't know, like this recorded right now that we still have.
The first story is generally considered to be the Epic of Gilgamesh, the oldest surviving example of the long fictional narrative poem.
When was that? And like, where was that?
Oh, man. The Epic of Gilgamesh was Sumerian, ancient Mesopotamia.
Yeah.
The king of Uruk, some of which may date back to the third dynasty of Ur, circa 2100 BCE.
So 4,000 years ago?
Cleopatra, closer to us than the building of the pyramids. Very prestigious job in ancient Egypt was archaeology, studying ancienter Egyptians. crazy how far back some of that stuff is. Also, was it the joke where at the same time you could have a samurai, a cowboy, and a pirate? Like they all overlapped just enough.
Wait, do you know how big that time period was? Was it like
Not particularly long because
yeah,
the quintessential cowboy is traditionally, I think you could probably make an argument that it could be like 1848 at the earliest. That's the end of what sort of classical piracy is. And whereas the samurai kind of actually went the longest, because that 1890s, I think, when that ended. Last sort of the end of the samurai era was 1895-ish. This
because I
is
think
called,
there's a story of a American cowboy who went to Japan and then he was
well,
like
1876 is when the special rights for samurai were ended. This is just going to turn into how fast can we Google random things?
because but then pirates. So I guess like in the Caribbean pirates.
I think like we have a kind
guess-
of like a classical sense of what a pirate is, right? Because piracy still continues today. There's still plenty of pirates.
Stop stealing our books.
And also like the more
Oil
naval,
tankers and
the
such.
nautical themed pirates also still going strong
Yep.
and haven't really stopped. In that area, piracy has been going on for ages. But like the classical pirate of European culture. So yeah, probably like Caribbean or that style lasted into the 18th century, beginning of the 19th century.
So you're obviously a bit of a history nerd.
I think you have to be to write the sort of stuff we do. Like you got to pull it all from somewhere. Like it's next to impossible to do a truly original, never been thought before thing. And
That's fair.
doing a lot of world building, you're invariably going to be looking at a lot of world. But yeah, I'm looking all across the world and trying to understand humans and what we've done.
Is there any examples you have where you're like doing research and you've read something from history that's an actual thing that's happened and you're like, this sounds like a story.
Oh man, that's all the time. There's stuff that's just, there's one of my favorites is a meeting in the Holy Roman Empire that happened in a castle, and the number of people in the meeting was too high and it broke the floor. And you have all like the biggest people of the empire falling into the cesspit, which is the sewage pit. And people drown, these princes drowned in shit because there were too many of them in this room. It's like, if you put that in a story, it would be contrived beyond belief. You would never be like, oh, wow, yeah.
It was an assassination plot. It wasn't anyone was trying to disturb the empire. It was just, we didn't know that this floor was rated for 1 ton and we put 3 tons of idiots on it. And
the whole, this is a weird thing to say, but the Habsburgs as an entirely inbred dynasty.
Yeah.
You look at some of the last rulers, you're just like, the best thing is someone put up like a picture of the ruler of Austria, the last emperor of Austria before Karl Franz. And then you see the portrait and you're like, oh God, the painter did him dirty. And then you see the photo of the guy and you're like, man, that was one nice painter.
Really good painter.
He's so kind. And the guy, apparently he was incredibly benevolent as an individual. And he was known as, I can't remember his name, as something the good. And he wound up abdicating the throne and settling down to be a farmer and just was known as the good. He's helped everybody out. He gave away money when the Poles were rioting. He's like, don't they have the right to protest? And as opposed to his forebears who had generally tended to view that sort of a thing with, we must quell all dissent with violence. But yeah, he had 20 seizures a day. He didn't have a 4 head so much as like a 12 head. Like he looked
His sniper's dream just wandering around right there.
Yeah. Right before snipers were a thing.
Yeah. You know what? Maybe he got out. Maybe he knew that guns were coming and he's like, not today.
Yeah.
You know what? I have missed a few things in my time. A bullet flying past my head is going to find my head. But no, it does. It makes me think of like dogs. When you see dogs and you go through, oh, this is purebred. And I don't think that there's a dog that's been done dirtier than a bulldog.
The French bulldog, maybe.
Yeah. And it's
or the
like,
pug.
Pug's
pretty bad.
Yeah. Because I think it's like naturally their hips are out of place. They have diabetes from the get-go.
Most of them. Yeah, they can't actually give birth on their own.
Yeah. But then pandas aren't even into starting up that whole situation. So they're still going.
Yeah. So his name was Ferdinand the First of Austria. And he wasn't actually the last emperor, but he was known as Ferdinand the Benign or Ferdinand the Benevolent.
Benign doesn't sound like the greatest title. Benevolence, yeah, that's more on the line you want to have, but benign's like, meh.
Let's see if I can.
But have you used this, like, yourself? Or, okay, we have established that your ADHD is out of control. And does it just lead to you going through a day of, hey, I'm just going to research this thing just for giggles?
Not on purpose, but yeah. I can disappear into a rabbit hole just because I forget to stop. And I was like, oh, hey. Oh, he was the last one that had to be crowned with the Iron Crown. What's the Iron Crown? Oh, okay. Oh, and it was made of iron beaten out of a nail of the true cross. What? Okay, hey, what's that? What's the true cross? Oh, yeah. Just go and go and go and go.
That is cool, though.
It is. It just makes writing difficult because I just get sidetracked.
That is fair. Yeah. But what are you working on now? Are you?
Oh, I got to get Master of Puppets 3 done. That's the book I'm trying to finish right now.
That's fair.
And then,
do you want to tell the viewers about why the names of the series are the names of the series?
What, the good, bad, and the ugly?
No, because you have Master of Puppets, right? You picked out all 3 different names for that series specifically.
Oh, that was the old. Yeah, I'd come up with this weird, again, like I was at a convention and I was talking with a friend and we had this idea and it was all going to be versions. It was the main character was going to be a fuzzy puppet named Russ because it was going to be the fast and furry Russ. And so the whole thing, I had all the titles. The third one was the toughest because the real title is Tokyo Drift, Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. And my idea was going to be the fast and furry Russ. Toe, keyhole, rift. And then my editor
doesn't really
was
roll
like,
off the tongue much.
No, shouldn't. There was no good reason to do it. Yeah. And yeah, my editor was like, no, we're not doing it.
And your editor is?
Correct.
Yeah. Your wife?
Yes.
Who's no.
Yeah.
No, Eric. Yeah.
She's much smarter than I am.
There's a reason that she does the contracts now instead of you doing them at conventions.
Because I just want to tell stories. And I want to play make-believe with everybody. So I'm like, oh yeah, hey, yeah, let's co-write together. And never once do I bother with that's going to be a pain in the butt to split royalties. But I just want to do it. I just want to tell stories. I just want to play in other people's universes and have them come and play in mine, even though I've rarely seen that go well.
Is that the magic of storytelling for you?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know what you mean by that, to be honest.
Talking to other authors, there's always something that like connects us to these stories that makes us want to write, right? Like you said, like this is a long-term job of you working on a single thing for months at a time, some years at a time if you're doing series. And it takes a lot of willpower to keep going. And there's usually like that, there's a reason underneath that of, hey, I just enjoy this so much.
Yeah, I think that's probably more what it is. Yeah, I don't know that there's anything greater, which I think is probably to my detriment. I think that if I had more of a driving thing, then I would probably be producing more work. Sometimes I feel that I'm the bard in the tavern and I'm just trying to tell stories to entertain people. And that's the extent of it. I used to get in trouble, but that was one of the things that when I was studying theater, I was the guy who wasn't interested in the art as the entertainment. Like I wanted to entertain people. And so that's still there. And then I don't have that overriding. I'm going to destroy classism or,
It's to entertain.
It's,
people.
I think and provide a measure of escapism and I guess hope. Like I'm not as much into grim things as I guess at one point I wanted to be. I want the good guys to win. I want people to have some sense of hope to it.
When you were doing like theater, because theater is more involved with the audience, was that easier? Because like I've talked to some people who've done theater and they say, hey, I get to work off the audience and feel how they're doing.
Do you mean as a performer? As a performer, it's very nice, right? You get immediate feedback when things are working. But conversely, you also get immediate feedback when things aren't working. And if you're a comedian on stage bombing, it is excruciating to go through. And I was in an improv group for a little while, involuntarily. And one of our first shows was the improv group failing. And it was a special kind of hell to go through. As a playwright, it's different. I think the ideal version of that would be that you're collaborating with other artists. So the director, the dramaturg, the actors, if you have that ability where you're actually like working with them to build something like that I find that easier.
I think that is fair. And I think that also goes into like when we meet up at cons, it's always do the meet and greet and all of this. And then we'll sit down and you're like, so this thing. And there's definitely, I think you just love collaborating on stories and just like playing with ideas.
Yeah.
And it's super big joy to do that because I think also ideas it can be a hard thing with writers because writers are usually working as individuals. But I think with your background of being in the collaborative space so much, that's really an interesting part of, hey, I want to hear your viewpoint and throw my ideas back and forth to see what you think.
Yeah, I love that. I love collaboration. I love working with people. And that is one of the harder things is feeling like I'm on my own.
Yeah, isolated. But anyway, on that, Dan.
Yeah, so we'll just start doing these. We'll just once a week, we'll just hang out for an hour and talk until we stop.
Yeah, talk about stories or until the dog starts losing its mind and people arrive and we're like, okay, we have 5 minutes before they appear.
All right.
Yeah. Get out. Get out. It's not what you think it is.
We're just talking stories.
Don't mind me. It's not
yeah. Thing. And the last weird thing, Helldivers.
The last time that we played Helldivers, I accidentally murdered you like 5 times.
Yeah, that's typical. That's every time.
Yeah. Though it is also incredible your aim with the pod. Because for people who don't know,
smash you anytime.
What happens is Eric appears on the map and someone else departs the map immediately afterwards. And sometimes no one dies and you just hear Eric just quietly in his microphone go, shit. And you go, did you mean to hit me?
Never.
No, never. And then you just get shot in the back.
That's usually Jazz.
That is usually Jazz.
And
which is incredible because he's usually using a sniper rifle. So
that's true.
Like if you're using a sniper rifle, it feels very directed.
Yeah. Good, sir. Let's play some games soon.
Sounds good. Thank you. It has been a pleasure. Where can people find you at?
ericugland.com is my website, and all of my books are on Amazon. Just search for my name.
They're good books. They're fun books.
And
I do agree that
I enjoy yours a lot.
Thank you. I find that I agree with it has hope, has great comedy, and the characters are really, I always say the characters are the biggest part of any story. The characters are realistic and they have those parts where you've taken the time to make sure that they have the background, make sure that they are actually like people of the world. They're not like, okay, this is the classic strong guy, strong mentality and stuff. There's that's a person, and they've become who they are through their experiences, which is just lovely to see.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, have a great time. Catch you all later.
All
It's been a
right.
pleasure, my guy.
Toodles.
Bye.